Okay.
And yeah.
All right, perfect.
Okay, so now let us start again. Hi Ruby, thank you so much for your time. We
You're
are from the
welcome.
group. Yes, we're actually here to want to ask you about your culture and your background and your beliefs and stuff like that. Here I would like to introduce you to our team member. There are four of us, myself, Tanisha, Ratna, and Uma. So each of us, we will ask you a set of questions. I mean, not many. It's just one, two questions. And then along the way, we have a conversation, a general conversation. You okay with that?
Yes,
Okay.
great.
So I'll start with Ratna first with her question.
Okay. Hi, Ruby. I'm Ratna here. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi.
Hi. Okay. As first question, okay, what is the main or religion you see and then come across within your country?
So do you want me to answer immediately or later on? Immediately.
Yes, it depends on you lah. You want to start now or together or later on? You see how?
I can give like a short answer and then we can discuss more later. So in the Netherlands, that's where I'm from, where I grew up and lived the majority of my life. Mostly I think it's Christian. It's mostly Christian
Okay.
culture. It's a little bit divided. There's some Protestant and some Catholic, but
Okay.
these are both, the biggest branches of Christianity. And then there's also a chunk of Muslims. I think a lot of this is due to migration from, different migration waves. There's a whole history of migration, different peoples from different areas. But right now, in the current day in the Netherlands, it's mostly Christian, and there's also some Muslim in the streets in the general population.
Okay. From that, okay, what is the best thing about your culture that you think? What is the best thing in your culture?
In my opinion, because I know about some other cultures, what I really appreciate about my own culture is that they value directness and honesty.
Okay.
Even if that sometimes means, that's saying something that someone doesn't want to hear. And I appreciate it because I know what I can expect from someone when they tell me no, when they mean no. Rather than, I have to think about it. And it actually means, sorry, no, I can't. So this honesty and directness is what I really value. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. Okay, that's all from me. I will come back to you later. I pass to my next team member, Tanisha.
All right, thank you.
Hello,
Okay.
Ruby. I'm Tanisha here.
Hi.
So, I'm going to ask you what's your the popular foods from your culture. Like for Malaysian meats, we will tell nasi lemak. You got to hear about it there before this?
So in the Netherlands, I don't know how strong they are on foods, but something that they eat a lot in winter, especially, it's a mash of like mashed potatoes and any kind of vegetable that you would mix with that. So you can do carrot, you can do like kale, like these leafy greens, and they cut them up and they mash it with the potato. And then they eat that with like a sausage or typically some kind of meat to
Which
go
means like
with
Western
that.
food.
It's like a
Correct?
hearty winter dish, but definitely Western. It's considered a Western country, yeah.
Okay. Another one is what is considered the most respectful or disrespectful in your culture?
Interesting question. So I guess tying into what I said earlier, right? So something disrespectful might be telling someone that you will come at a certain time and then you show up 2 hours late. I can imagine some cultures where, okay,
understand.
all right, fine, but in the Netherlands, they would really get mad at you over that. It would be considered very unprofessional. And yeah, so that would be like a very disrespectful thing. A respectful thing, I don't know, to ask somebody before, to not assume that they will want you to hug them or something like that, to ask for somebody's personal boundaries.
Okay, so I have another question here. Is there any, can you find a difference that now you're staying in Greece? And is there any difference at Netherlands and Greece?
Yeah,
The
definitely.
foods and the people
Foods
around you?
first.
Yeah.
So
Anything,
foods here in Greece, they tend to cook very differently. It's a lot of olive oil, a lot
Oh,
of it goes towards the Middle Eastern spices, you know, they use
oh,
cumin, they use Arabic kind of influences, Turkish, Moroccan, these kinds of things that may come to mind, you know, lots of bell peppers, paprika, not so much chili, strangely.
okay.
I would
But
expect it
here
to be more
Malaysians we
spicy.
use lot of chilies.
Yeah, so in Greece, not so much. They have one dish which is like spicy with cheese. It's a spicy cheese, and that's new. That's not traditional.
And then
So,
how about the culture side, Greece there? People's
so
there?
over here, I think the biggest difference, and my mom also noted this, being from Malaysia, my mom, she
Okay.
noted that here in Greece, family is very important. It's at the center of everything. There are huge families, family gatherings, and in the Netherlands, it depends. Some people are in touch with their family a lot. When you go more away from the city and more to the smaller villages, of course, I guess that's normal for every country. Family is very important there. But in the Netherlands, in general, it can be very normal for somebody not to ever see their cousins or, you know, not to remember the names of all their cousins because,
Okay.
yeah, I don't see them so much. They live in a different place. We don't, you know, this kind of, and
Yeah.
for someone from Greece or, you know, from Malaysia, I expect this would be insane. You know, how do you mean you don't know the rest of your family or you never see them? What is
Yeah.
that? But in the Netherlands, it's not all that big. It's not so important. So this would I would consider it to be a very big difference.
Okay. So that's all from me for now. I will come back
I
to you
have
again.
one more answer if I can add that.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
have noticed that the Dutch, again, you know, culture is such a complicated thing, so it's not for everybody, but I've noticed that the Dutch don't embrace so much their Dutchness sometimes.
Okay.
So, and you see this, for example, in music. A lot of Dutch created music or like pop hits is in
Yeah.
English. I don't know, they want to reach international audience or something. But when it's a Dutch movie or a Dutch language music, a lot of Dutch people, I think especially from the cities, they're like, no, no, it needs to be cool, it needs to be hip, it needs to be international, and we don't like Dutch music. Whereas here in Greece, for example, right, it's not that
Mm-hmm.
far away, it's 3 hours by plane. But you know, you need to know all the words to all the Greek songs,
Oh,
Greek music, Greek comedy, all of it is like very important and it's part of their culture, you know, it binds them together. So in the Netherlands, these things exist, but people will look down on it and be like, "Oh, you don't know any other language except your own. Ugh, that's
oh.
so boring and
This,
so dumb, you know? We don't like to focus on Dutch things." This is something I have noticed also.
okay. So I will pass to the next person now. Thank you for your answers.
Thank you.
I think I'll go next. Hi, Ruby.
Hi.
I'm just wondering, what is the most important celebration in Netherlands? Like,
Yes, I saw this in the preparation questions, and I was thinking, I don't know necessarily, but I think I will say that because Christianity is still the most
mm,
dominant, I would say, religion. Lots of people are not really religious and do not go to church every Sunday, even if they proclaim to be a Catholic or a Protestant. But even if they don't go to church every Sunday, there are people that will then still go to church for Christmas and Easter.
mhm.
And even if they don't go to church for these holidays, they will still celebrate Christmas and Easter in the shape of inviting people to their home, their family, although, you know, their close family only, not their whole extended family
Okay.
usually. But yeah, so Christmas and Easter to have food, to give each other gifts, to, it's mostly centered around food, really, and new clothes.
And because I was just searching on Google and I find so many festivals like Holland Festival, King's Day.
There are different things. King's Day recently happened, so that was 3 days ago, 5 days ago. That was a celebration of the king's birthday. There is a king, even though it is mostly democratically ruled. Of course, the country, the king is symbolic. And today, in fact, is also a holiday, although I don't think it's a bank holiday for every person necessarily. You don't get free from work automatically, but they do celebrate today the liberation and the end of the Second World War, the liberation from the Nazis.
Oh, okay.
That is today. And yesterday, the day before, in the evening, they place flowers on monuments and they commemorate the fallen, the people who have fallen, and the soldiers and the innocents that were killed. And then today they celebrate the liberation.
And I was just thinking, like in Malaysia, we have so many celebrations, which is because we are multicultural, right? And we have so many
Right.
celebrations that we all of us celebrate together. So I don't know how adaptable are the Dutch people to any celebration. Do they adapt to it, or is just celebrated only by certain community, or is it celebrated by whole where they take part, like how we do
I
here?
think this depends on what celebration it is, because certain groups and communities are larger and others are smaller. So if you think about Chinese New Year, I am sure that it is celebrated, but I personally, when I lived in the Netherlands, have never been invited to celebrate Chinese New Year by someone. If you know somebody who is in that community, you may get invited. I'm sure there are people who are celebrating it. There is a Chinatown in Amsterdam. There is a Chinatown in Rotterdam. So they exist, they must do it. But I personally have not heard, of that being done so big. Islam is a different thing because I think the Islam community in the Netherlands, or communities in the Netherlands, are bigger. There are more people in general from different parts of the world. So depending on what city you live in or what area, there may be actually a lot of Muslim people. And then, yeah, definitely you may get invited to celebrate Eid or something like that. So it really depends. There are, of course, lots of festivals and lots of holidays depending on the background of people. But if I were to compare the Netherlands to Malaysia, and it's been 7 years since I have been there, but from memory and from what my mother told me, I will, yes, definitely, counting down the days, in fact. But in Malaysia, I think it is way more interwoven and it's more recognized that it is such a multicultural mix. In the Netherlands, it can happen that people get, worried that the Dutch traditions may get lost, which is strange. As I told you earlier, that I don't know, these may not be the same people, because the other Dutch are like, no, we don't like our Dutch language, it's stupid, it's boring, we need English and all of that. And yet at the same time, whenever some small new, immigration thing happens and they're like, oh no, it's a threat, we need to protect our Dutch whatever identity. And then others, politicians will try to fight for it and be like, no, it's amazing. All these people are Dutch people now. Whoever chooses to live in the Netherlands and, feels this Dutch identity is Dutch, even if their background is, from Indonesia or from Morocco or Turkey, and let them bring their foods and their festivities and their religions. We want, a big mix of things, but I don't think that in the Netherlands, I don't think it's quite as celebrated, this diversity, as it would be like in New York or in Malaysia, or Singapore, where people are like, no, we're Chinese, we're Malay, we're Tamil, we're all of this. It's not so much celebrated like that in the Netherlands. It exists, and then it varies.
Oh, it varies. Okay. I have one more question. I was just wondering, like being from Netherlands and you are now in the other part of it, which is Greece. What one thing that you find it quite challenge for you to adapt to the environment in Greece, which you're still
Um,
struggling till now? I'm not sure.
I have lived here now for 2 years. I met my husband here while I was visiting 5 years ago. And last year we got married and I moved here 2 years ago. And yeah, it's a good question. I really like it here. The weather is different. We have longer days, more sun, and a longer summer than in the Netherlands. And the winters are less cold. But adapting wise, obviously the language is a barrier if you don't learn it. And I was lucky enough that I have help for learning the language. My husband is a teacher in elementary school, so he can help me out when I have some questions. So that's a big thing, and it's important. But I was lucky that it was not so much of a barrier to me. I'm learning.
Mhm.
But more than that, I think it is the bureaucracy. Like when you need to go somewhere to get something organized, the healthcare system is different. I need to learn, like, if I need something, where do I get it? What do I need to bring to prove, that I need this or that? And this can be really tricky. And the Greeks themselves know it, and it irritates them as well that, you want something done and then you need to go to an office and the people at the office claim that they know it when in fact they tell you like, oh yeah, you need this, and then you go away and turns out it wasn't true. But they don't let you believe that they don't know it. That's never the story. The story is always it's A, and later you find out it wasn't A at all. So that is, I think, my biggest adaptation. Not to say that the Dutch system is perfect. Of course, it's not. Every system has their flaws. But I do believe that also from talking to others that, bureaucracy is always a headache, but there's levels of it. And where I am now, it's a little bit of a step down from like the systems that I'm used to. And I also lived in Germany for about 3 years before coming to Greece. So as I've said, I've been away from the Netherlands for a little bit. But again, there are also differences between Germany and the Netherlands. Subtle, but you notice them when you live there. And again, I don't know if it's necessarily worse or better, but it's different. So you need to learn, like, what are the routes that I go to get something done.
Okay, yeah, I'm done with my question. Thank you for answering. I
You're
think I'll
welcome.
pass over to Sylvia. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Good answers, Ruby. Now, so my final question would be in general, like educations, and then how involved are they? For education part, do they also create awareness about your beliefs, or did they any touch base any of that in the subject in your education system?
Good question. Yeah. So now that I'm a little older and I have heard a little bit more about education in different countries,
Correct.
and married an educator,
Did they
I
like touch a religion or beliefs or things like that in a certain subject in the
they
education?
do.
Okay.
They do. I gather that it depends what school you go to, because there are different types of schools that you can choose to send your child to. There are the public elementary schools, and then there are the religious schools. There exist also, depending on the size of the minority, but I think that for every minority community in the Netherlands, there exist also schools that you can send your child. So there are schools that are focused on, that are Muslim schools. I think I even saw a Hindi school in the Netherlands that you
Okay.
can specialize, that you can send your children to.
So they
But
specialize each one of it.
so if that happens, if you send your child there, and I don't know the details of, what are the laws
I
around that.
see.
But
Okay.
in general, it will be either a public school or most likely then some form of a Christian school, like a Catholic or a Protestant school. I myself went to a Catholic school because my parents are Catholic, but I also had classmates that were not Catholic, and yet their parents thought, I want my child to get some religious, upbringing.
Okay.
So what that looks
Okay.
like is, I'm sorry about that. So what that looks like is that you will start the morning with prayer. The children will learn, that once per month or a few times per year, I don't remember, it was some time ago, the whole class would go to a school, and there would be like an outing.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so
Yes.
the whole class would go
Okay.
to a church. So there will be like a church outing.
Mm.
So these things will be done. Then as you leave elementary school and go to secondary school,
Mm.
there I did have a subject in the week called religion.
Okay.
And also the secondary school is oh, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah,
All right,
can.
because I see some lag.
Yes,
Yeah.
no problem.
All right. So also in secondary school, it was a Christian school that I went to.
Mm.
So that also meant that we may start the day with prayer, although it depended on the teacher how much they did that. And we had the subject of religion. So a lot of this was focused on learning about the Bible and about, the differences between Judaism and Protestantism and
Oh, okay.
Catholicism. But there was also some time made for minorities, for, groups from immigration in the Netherlands and what this means, and Buddhism and Hinduism and all these things would be briefly introduced to the subjects.
That's interesting. So are they making it compulsory as well? Starting from
That
like
subject was compulsory, yes, but
compulsory,
I can imagine that it depends on the teacher, how
depends on the
much they
teacher.
will, because there are more subjects in the book than they have time to do, right? So
Okay,
they may cherry pick. I don't know that much about it.
I see.
Um,
So how about like in the university level? Did they touch base any religion subject? Or they
At
make it
university level,
compulsory?
I would say it depends on what you choose to study.
Okay.
So the system in the Netherlands is not like, as far as I know, is like not like in the US. For example, in the US, everybody does the same for the first year, right?
Yes, correct.
As far as I know, like you do like a number of subjects and then you choose what you do. So in the Netherlands, after high school, you need to choose, if you go to university, you choose your subject immediately from the start. So
You get to
if you,
choose a subject. Okay.
yeah, and then you apply for university where you go to.
Mm.
So I studied linguistics, so the study of languages and language structures. So in my line of research, there was no reason for religion to play any part in that. So religion was not ever part of my university education.
I see. I see.
But
Okay.
if you chose to study, religious beliefs or religions of South Asia or something, I think that
Mm.
these
It
subjects would
depends.
exist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting, actually. So,
And of
yes,
course, you asked about it being mandatory or not.
yes, correct.
So, whereas in my case, it had nothing to do with my topic of study, but
Mm-hmm.
I studied languages. So there, from languages, you go into cultures, then you go into
Yes,
religions.
correct.
So it
Correct.
definitely does play a part. So I could
Yes.
have, if I wanted, in your 3 years of bachelor's, there is an amount of study points that you may spend on something that you choose as an extra course. It's not extra, it needs to be part of your curriculum. So you need to choose something. The choice is mandatory, but they don't tell you what to study. So if I wanted to study more about religions, I could have put it in there. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so this one is connects to again from the education and the language. That's my second question because you mentioned it also language. Is there any barrier in your where you come from when it comes to language, like when you communicate with people in terms of work, in terms of day-to-day conversation with your friends, family, and also if you want like public speaking, you want to share awareness of something, for example, like religion or healthcare or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
does it stick to just one language or they stick to multiple language, or How is it?
Good
Because
question,
like
because I
for
know that
yeah, because
in
for
Malaysia and
Malaysia,
in many
yes,
other countries,
yes, we
yeah,
have a lot of
it's such
languages
a
and
multilingual
yes,
situation. Yeah.
very diversity in terms of languages, religion, beliefs, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So how the difference with your country where you come from?
So roughly speaking, that is definitely not the situation as it is in Europe. So I think I can speak broadly that
Yes.
most countries or most or all countries of Europe are really focused on one or maximum two or three languages to be their main languages. And the same is
Okay.
true for the Netherlands. So Germany has German, the Netherlands has Dutch, Spain has Spanish, Greece has Greek. So it's really one language per country is the norm. And that's very different than the situation as it is in Africa, in Asia. So in these, it's very different. However, as I told you earlier, there are, of course, minority communities in the Netherlands. So there do exist people that may not comprehend or speak the Dutch language very well. One thing is that English is a very major thing in the Netherlands, so they really focus on English. It's almost becoming a second language. Again, there are people that, fear this and try to block it out. There's too much English. My entire
that?
master's program after the bachelor's was entirely in English. So as to be
English,
more
okay.
accessible to international students, right? So that you don't
Yes.
have to choose between Dutch or English. So, and you see, across Facebook, across, I don't know, these, or maybe news
Social
websites
media.
even, that there may be like English versions of the Dutch website. So you see that more and more to cater for the international community.
Okay.
But
So
other than that, there's also, when it comes to healthcare or something like that, like when we had the pandemic, the COVID crisis, you would see on websites for, explaining about the vaccination, or things like that, you would see multiple links for also Turkish, Arabic, Chinese. So there would be a number Ukrainian, since the Ukrainian crisis happened, so Ukrainian
correct.
language would pop up in more places with
That's
the
nice.
idea that, these people need help, or in doctors' offices, you may see something, like, I don't know, some information that they think would be crucial for these people, or links to where to find more information, because it's possible that they don't master Dutch and don't know English either.
Oh,
Right.
okay, that's great. I think that's all I have. I'm not sure if the rest have any question. Your input is very important for us actually. It's quite interesting. I actually also find out.
It's nice to talk about.
Yeah,
Like
I
when
know.
you ask me,
I
I'm
will
like,
ask
oh,
you.
yes, definitely.
Yes, correct. So I will ask you maybe your next visit later. So I think we have another like 5 more minutes. Ladies, do you have any question for her before we close the session?
I was just wondering. I mean, I didn't know that you were married since you just revealed. Is your husband a Greek, and I believe he's a Muslim? He embraced Muslim? No. Oh, okay. Because all the while
He
I
is
was thinking
Greek.
that Greek is a Muslim country. I'm not sure about it at all.
That was a good guess, because there is a lot of cultures coming together here at this. It's the very southern part of Europe, so it's close to the north of Africa, and you get also, influences from Turkey. It was under Turkish rule for a long time. But no, the Muslim community is actually quite small. I have actually seen more people, Indian and Pakistani looking people walking around here. More so than Muslim people. So no, my husband is born and bred Greek, and he grew up and identifies with the Greek traditional Orthodox Orthodox Christian community, which is a different branch of Christianity, closer to Catholicism.
Okay.
They have differences, but it's the kind of Christianity that you'll find in the eastern side of Europe, in Russia, in Slavic countries, and then Greece also.
Okay. Thank you.
Really looking forward to have more conversation.
Yes.
Okay, any
Definitely.
more questions, ladies, before we end the session?
Okay,
No.
one question. I have one question. Okay, since you are a Catholic and then your husband is based on like Greek side, so what language do you speak more often? And then what is your mother language?
Good question. So, I grew up speaking Dutch, but I call myself a bilingual Dutch English because I spoke English from a very young age on. Because it goes back to my parents, right? So my mother
Yeah.
is Bidayu from
Mhm.
Malaysia, from
Yeah, Bidai is for
Yes,
East
you said
Malaysia.
yes earlier, yeah.
And my father speaks Dutch and he didn't speak Malay or Bidayu. So my mother and my father spoke English when I was little. This caused me to be very fluent in English also. And I picked it up as I got older, of course. So
Okay.
thankfully, my husband is also fluent in English because he did a lot of English language training as a child. Because in Greece,
Oh,
just as in the Netherlands, it is very important for children, for people to send their children to language schools, like to learn to speak other languages fluently. I didn't mention this earlier, but the Netherlands is a tiny country and they're focused on trade. So they want their kids to learn German, French, Dutch. I am not fluent in all these languages, but I had them all in school. Okay?
okay,
Education
like
is
the basic
focused.
one.
We're not multilingual, but we pretend to be multilingual in the sense that we try to branch out because Dutch is so small that there are not many Dutch speakers. So we try to speak
Okay.
good English, good German, etc. Now in Greece, it's tourism. So in the Netherlands, trade, in Greece, tourism. But tourism is very big, so we need to speak French, German, English, all of this. So in a similar way, we both learned English from a young age. So we speak English always together, even though my Greek is improving. Speaking, matters of the heart or like communicating with each other goes in English actually all of the time. Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. Nice.
Okay.
Nice question.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Anisha, did
think
you have anything else?
we have 3 more
No.
minutes.
No,
Okay.
I was thinking too, what's language are you and your husband are using? So it's clear already.
Sadly, I didn't learn much Bidayu as a child. I have started recently on
So
Duolingo
you
to
came
start.
Malaysia before this?
No, and not a lot. So I
Okay.
know some words, but so I started learning Greek years ago on the Duolingo free language app. This is not an advertisement. I'm not sponsored by them. But I really like that app and I have been using it. And sadly, they do not offer Malay, but they offer Indonesian. So I guess it's a close second. So I'm learning
Oh,
Indonesian
yes.
on Duolingo
I will
now.
look up into that app.
Yeah.
Yeah.
me too.
Okay, we have like
Yeah.
less than
3
3 minutes.
minutes, exactly.
Yes, correct. So
Should
I
I
think
stop
that's
the recording first? Or
sorry.
should I stop the recording first?
Yeah, just stop recording.
Okay.
So thank you so much, Ruby.